What's up guys, Coyote Works here. Well, I'm off on the hunt today to get back to a place I've been looking at on the maps and wanting to go for a long time. So in case you guys are wondering, this is where the town of Stauffer was. And about the most prominent feature that's left is this big well right here. I'll show you guys, but this was the community well in the center of town. There were actually a decent number of buildings here just a little after 1900. There was a pretty good community out in this valley. What was pretty cool is this old well was dug by hand, and the pile of dirt that they dug out of the ground is still mounded up right here. But it's pretty incredible to think this thing's about, probably 15 feet in diameter, and it probably went down about 25-30 feet or so. Pretty amazing that they dug that by hand. When they got down there to a certain depth, they just had to haul the dirt up out one bucket load at a time. Yeah, I'm in the thick of it now. I've got broken pottery and china all around me, but I wanted to show you guys, this is another example of the level of ingenuity that the homesteaders had. They were so remote and so far away from supplies that they had to improvise and make do with what they had. So here's a bucket that apparently at some point the handle broke off of, and they took a piece of barbed wire and twisted all of the barbs off of it. There's one right down here, but they twisted all the rest of the barbs off of it to make a handle for their bucket. I just think stuff like that's cool. It just shows the ingenuity and how they just had to make do with what they had to work with out here. One thing that's neat about some of these sites that are really remote like this, and one sign that I can tell that there haven't been a lot of people here, is there's a lot of things like this laying around that don't have bullet holes in them. A lot of fairly large tin and galvanized objects, and even a few bottles on the surface that haven't been shot full of holes or broken. I just took a quick stop off here at Stauffer to walk around it. I've never really searched this site much. I've been here before, but at some point I want to locate where all of the buildings and structures were at. But right now, it's about 99 degrees, maybe even 100. It was about 99 when I got out of the Jeep, so I'm going to jump back in the Jeep, get in the air conditioning, and start working my way back towards this valley I'm hunting. So a lot of times what I'm doing in the hot part of the day like this is I'm just cruising along on these little old Jeep tracks and stuff. And then I'm just looking really closely for signs when I'm in an area like this where there was a lot of history. I'm looking to see if I see a can out there, an old rusty piece of metal, maybe a post sticking up, anything that might indicate some kind of a human created site out there. And then one thing is I always have a pair of binoculars handy, and that saves me a lot of trips getting in and out of the Jeep. So I saw something glinting right back there, like maybe it was a piece of glass. So, but I can see through the binoculars that it's actually just a piece of obsidian. So anyway, that's kind of my process when I'm in a general area where there's history and I'm trying to hunt it down. Is a lot of times I'll drive a little ways, get out, walk around. If I see a old rusty tin can or some old broken glass or something like that, that'll clue me in to stop, walk a little loop, get back in the Jeep if I don't find anything, and roll on a little further. Look at this, guys. A homestead, and a pretty good sized one. It's probably just barely visible, but there's a stone foundation over there and then a root cellar right here. And the only reason I saw this is I was cruising down this road and see my Jeep's right there, and I just saw a piece of metal out here, a piece of rusty metal, and I decided to jump out and look, and sure enough, it's a homestead site. There's the corner, one corner anyway. Right there's the other corner. It was shaped like an L. The foundation goes around the outside of that, what I'm assuming is a root cellar. Comes along there, comes back into here, and then ties in with this corner right here, and then back to the point where I started. This is pretty cool. You can actually see the whole foundation. So I made it out to my valley, and it is exactly what it looked like on the map. It's a huge open valley. So it doesn't look like a fantastic place to camp for the night. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to jet across it to a spot where it looks like there's an old well and maybe a homestead, and check that out. The good news is it's smooth going across here. So I'm going to run across and check that out. We'll see if we find something there, and if not, I may backtrack and head back over into that last valley I was in, because there were some pretty cool rim rocks and stuff to explore around in that area. All right, well, here I am, standing out in the middle of the Chicago Valley. It's a huge valley, and it's really hard to get to. It's a lot of miles on rough road. So I thought there might be some cool stuff here, but so far I'm coming up short. Check this out. I just stumbled across this old farm implement laying out here. So there is going to be some stuff out here in the Chicago Valley. I just stopped here because I saw a tin can. And I started walking around, found a little bit of glass, and then found this farm implement laying here. So I'm going to keep looping and see if I find anything else. Here's another example of homesteader ingenuity. Here's this bed frame. It's a small one, but then it's wrapped up in chicken wire. I think it was part of their chicken coop. Oh dear Lord, I can't get my camera stable here in my mount. All right, so I checked out a couple of homesteads, checked out Stauffer, checked out Chicago Valley, and now I'm heading back out of Chicago Valley. I got a little range of buttes to cross until I get back into the area I want to camp. So I was a little bit disappointed in the part of Chicago Valley that I checked out. I didn't find any better, cooler remains of any homesteads, but what I did find was a good water source. So if the zombie apocalypse comes, this water source, well, at least now, has good water in it. All right, well, I've got myself into it now. I started taking a shortcut, and this track has all but disappeared out here. And now it's 7 o'clock. I've got about 6 more miles to get to where I want to go. Once again, in typical Coyote Works fashion, it looks like I'm going to be pulling into camp after dark, or at least close to dark. I don't know, we'll see how she goes. As long as this track stays out in the flat and keeps going in the direction it is now, I should be all right. The problem I'm going to run into is if it gets into a rocky area, because there's been nobody on this track in years. I'm basically forging my own trail. Now there's just kind of a faint little cut. Every once in a while I can see the tracks through the sagebrush. So, as always, it's turning into an adventure. I'm banking on the fact that out in this country, every road here exists for a reason. Like, back in the day, the homesteaders and stuff who built all of these roads, they didn't really build roads just for entertainment purposes. So my hope is that it's going to go somewhere, and the direction it's going, it's logical for it to connect up with another road that should be a little more traveled in modern times, and that's the road that's going to get me to where I want to go this afternoon. I'm on a little bit of wing and a prayer here, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. All right, perfect. Well, this road did exactly what I needed it to do. It got me over to another one I could see on a map that's going in the direction I want to go. The problem is, the one that's going in the direction that I want to go, I thought was going to be a little more used, get a, you know, at least some ranchers using it or something, but it's not really any more used than the last one. So, and I've got to go a couple of miles on this one, so I'm just going to pray that it holds out and keep going, and if it starts getting dark on me, I may just have to pull over and camp wherever it gets dark. Well, I burned a lot of daylight getting here, but I'm basically where I want to be now, so I'm just going to look for a spot to camp, and I'm actually in a pretty cool area. I got a rim rock backed up against one side, and then I got a wide open valley on the other side. So I'm just going to find a flat spot in here and pull my Jeep over and camp for the night. All right, sometimes camp is just wherever you can find a spot to park. So I finally got down off of the rocky stuff. I've got the valley out in front of me, rim rock behind me. Should have some good views in the morning, so I'm going to throw my rooftop tent up, and I'm starving, so I'm probably going to dive right into a mountain house meal. So one of my objectives on this trip is I'm following all these old tracks, trying to make sure I can connect a loop. I want to make a route that's a big loop out through here, because what I'm thinking about is maybe later on in the summer, towards the fall, when it starts to cool off a little bit in the days, I'm just going to do an open invitation for anybody that wants to come down to Central Oregon and go on a couple of day overlanding trip. So I've been thinking about this route for a long time. It goes through some really cool country, and it's a good route where we can spend 2 or 3 days going out through here, through the desert, and probably never see another person. Camp set up. The sunset's just beautiful out there. I'm gonna grab something cold to drink and get a mountain house going. Well, it's just been a fantastic day. I'm a little dusty, so I'm just gonna wipe some of the dust off before I eat my dinner here. That feels good to wipe some of the dust off. All right, my water's boiling. And you have a little chicken a la king with noodles. Okay, in about 10 minutes, I'll have myself some dinner. So, as I was saying earlier, one of my objectives on this trip was to scout this route. And so, what I'm working on is we could do it either 1 night or 2 night route that takes us through a big chunk of the country that I hang out in a lot. And what I'd like to do is throw a date out there. I just got to look at my calendar and throw a date out there for any of you guys that might want to join me for an overland adventure. But we'll do about 75 or 100 miles off-road. Actually, once we leave the pavement, we probably won't see another person until we hit the pavement again a couple of days later. So last weekend I scouted in the northern part of the route. This weekend I'm scouting the southern part of the route. So tomorrow I'll hopefully link up with, depending on time, hopefully I'll link up with the southernmost portion that I scouted last weekend. So stay tuned. I'll throw a date out there, and it'll just be one of those deals where I'll just throw a date and a time. I'm going to be at this place at this time, and anybody that wants to meet up at that point can tag along, and we'll just have a fun adventure out here. That's not the right tool for the job. There we go. Alright, let's see how she turned out. It's going to be pretty good. I'm like a mountain house chef. Just perfect, just the right amount of water, right amount of rehydration time. Love it when a plan comes together. Do the Coyote Works Mountain House meal modification, as always. Quick tip. One thing I always do is whenever I use my knife, I put it right back in my pocket. I can't tell you how many times I've been out in the woods with guys who lost knives because they used them, and then they set it down someplace, went on to do something else, and then could never find it again. Morning sunshines. Let's check out this view out here. It's pretty incredible. You know, it's nice. It's actually kind of cool this morning. It's almost 7 o'clock right now, and the sun's out hard, but there's a little bit of smoke in the air, which is keeping it just a tad cool, which will be nice for the day. There's a number of little shortcuts I take when I know I'm going to want to move fairly quickly in the mornings, and one thing is that I do a lot is at home I'll make up a couple of these hydro flasks full of coffee. So in here I've got coffee, milk, and ice. So I like iced coffee, but this will basically give me enough coffee for my first couple of cups this morning. So now I'll just get some water boiling really quick here, and while the water is boiling for my breakfast, then I'll button up a few things around camp. I do, however, like to sit just for a couple minutes and drink my coffee and kind of enjoy the view. This is pretty cool country in here. I'll have a little breakfast skillet this morning for breakfast. It's probably my favorite mountain house breakfast meal. And while that's going, I'm going to button up a couple other things here. Okay, water's boiling. Let me start this complicated process of cooking breakfast here. I think in my scientific measuring process, I've determined that this needs just a little bit more liquid. Oh, there we go, that's perfect. Alright, in about 5 minutes I'll have breakfast. While my mountain house meal is rehydrating, I'm going to go ahead and button up my tent. So that'll be done and out of the way. most difficult and time-consuming part of stowing away your rooftop tent is actually just putting the cover on. And it's not that big of a deal. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to get the cover on there, but it is literally the hardest part of the whole process. I got my rooftop tent buttoned up, so now I'm gonna enjoy some coffee and some breakfast. All right, check out this breakfast skillet here. I like this breakfast skillet Mountain House meal. It's got hash brown, scrambled eggs, pork sausage, peppers, and onions. I feel like it's a pretty rounded meal. It's got some high fat, high protein in it, and some carbs. Good breakfast. Another little quick tip is, and I've probably showed you guys this before, but instead of using regular paper towels, I get these blue shop towels. They're a little bit more expensive, but I like using disposable towels for certain things out here, and these last a little bit longer than regular paper towels. You can reuse them over and over a few times. So I'm just about to finish buttoning up my camp, so I'm going to get these nice and wet. And then the last thing after I get my camp all buttoned up, I just like to knock the dust down off me a little bit. So I'm just going to get these damp, set them right here, and then this will be the last thing that I put away, will be this water jug and my recovery tracks. I also keep a brush in here, or it's more like kind of a little whisk broom. But this is a really handy thing to have out here in the dusty country. A lot of times I'll use it to knock the dust off my cover and the back of my Jeep where I know I'm going to be getting in and out of it, because a lot of times on my rear bumper, I mean, there'll be 3/8 of an inch of dust laying on it after I've been driving around on roads like this. One thing about overlanding and car camping and really just doing anything where you're covering a lot of miles out in the desert country like this in the summer is you're just not going to get away from the dust. The dust is just going to eventually get into everything. This right here, like even just walking around, my feet hit the ground and clouds of dust come up. So it's just a constant thing out here, blowing your nose, and it's all black in the morning. But I try to do a few things to help make it a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more civilized feeling out here when it's this dusty. I carry lots of water so I can clean off a lot, things like that. I probably used about 1.5 gallons of water while I was here. And one thing I do obviously is secure at least the heavy stuff back here. So this water jug, for example, I just bungee it in place. Try to set it in there so it doesn't rattle, and pull that bungee cord over the top of it. And that's it. Camp's buttoned up. I'm ready to hit the road. It's getting warm out here and daylight's a burning. All right, before I hit the road, I want to pull up my track that I've been recording for this route, and want to continue recording. I don't know if you guys can see that with the glare on it, but yeah, it's probably too much glare. But anyway, I'm recording this track for this route, for this 3-day kind of overland route through the desert here. So want to turn on, I actually want to continue my track recording. Okay, good, perfect. All right, I'm gonna cruise on a little further. There should be a potential homestead site up here, really only about 1 mile away. So we'll have a short little haul to get to it. We'll stop and check it out, and then we'll continue forging our route. One really cool thing about this route is I've basically been pioneering a route following these old homestead trails. But for the last couple hours of yesterday afternoon, I was on tracks that nobody had been on for a couple of years. And I'm finding these things on old maps. It's a little bit sketchy following them because you never know when they're just going to come to a wash that you're not going to be able to cross, or they're just going to completely peter out. But it's kind of a cool experience. This is one of my favorite forms of off-roading, I guess you could call it, is trying to follow all these old roads. There were so many homestead communities out here in the desert country that there were a lot of roads that connected them. And most of those roads only saw a little bit of automobile use. Once the automobiles started getting prolific, then they changed the routes and made them more efficient and drew more straight lines and things like that. But a lot of these older routes, they followed the path of least resistance, because a horse with a wagon or a horse with a buckboard, horses with a buckboard, grades were difficult, really rocky terrain was difficult. They didn't really have the manpower to be able to do a lot of grading and things like that. So the older routes tended to just kind of meander and contour around, stay as much as possible at the same level. So oftentimes they were a little bit more circuitous, but they're fun to follow. So I thought I'd show you guys really quick what I have next to me when I'm cruising down the roads and exploring out here. So I usually always have some kind of a book, some kind of a historical book that's referencing some stuff out in the area I'm in. I've always got my binoculars. The pair that I run the most are the Steiner Observers. Then I've usually got a rifle or a shotgun sitting in the seat, and my ham radio, can of Grizzly, and some water. Those are kind of the things I generally always will have handy while I'm out here exploring. It looks like I'm by an old homestead site, or at least some kind of a camp, but I think this is probably a homestead site because I got barrel stays, a lot of glass mixed in here, old cans, some of the earliest cans, a couple of buckets, and they're scattered all out that way. So I'm going to check this out. So out in this country, with all the historic homesteading that happened, there's a lot of just scattered little cow camps and horse camps. There was a guy named Bill Brown that ran a huge empire of horses out here. He had thousands and thousands of horses. So he had a lot of little spike camps scattered around out through this country. So how do you know the difference between what was just maybe a cow camp and what was a homestead? Well, what I look for is I look for the types of artifacts that are there. So this particular site right here, I'm seeing things that are more related to a little more permanent of a occupation. So here I've got a bundle of chicken wire, and then I found a post in the ground back there, or what's remains of a post with a little bit of this chicken wire attached to it. Then I'm also finding buckets. I found several buckets and several barrel stays. All those things are more indicative of more of a homestead site. But that in and of itself, it is possible that those things could exist in a cow camp. But the other thing that I saw is I saw some bottles, and some bottles that are more maybe feminine related things, like bottles that would have had like some kind of tonics and things like that in them. So it's all about just looking at the clues and trying to put together the pieces of what was happening at this particular site. Alright, so we are about to connect our routes here. Getting really close. It's been a little bit sketchy because the roads that I'm seeing on the ground aren't what the roads look like on the map. So I've been doing a little bit of dead reckoning, a little bit of following the compass and just picking roads that went the general direction, but I should be connecting up with my other track any minute now. All right, guys, well, I'm probably only about 2 miles from pavement. It's been a successful trip. I found the Chicago Valley, made a nice stopover at the old town site of Stauffer. But the most important thing was I checked out all of my water holes and I connected my routes. So, hope you guys enjoyed this trip. I know it might not have been the most exciting one, but at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'll launch a video with some dates on it for a potential group overland trip. So I'm thinking like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll just throw a date out there and a time that we can all meet up, and we'll probably all meet up at like Brothers, Oregon or something like that. So as always, thanks for coming along on this adventure with me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Coyote Works out.